We are recording on a very hot evening.
Very warm.
It was like 90 degrees today, and unfortunately, our air conditioning went this
Well,
week.
that doesn't sound like a good sound for an air conditioning to do.
This is Bearly Furcasting, featuring Taebyn, an Injured Nerves audio production. Welcome, everyone. I'm Barely Normal, and you are?
Hi, my name is Taebyn. I'm a pup. Bark, bark.
And we are Bearly Furcasting.
Just barely.
Just barely. So I need to start with an apology because we aired an episode last week with Cassidy Civet, and I was gender insensitive.
Gender insensitive? Why would you do that?
I didn't realize that I was. I referred to Cassidy by the wrong gender.
Oh,
And so to all of her followers and all of her listeners, I deeply and humbly apologize. She's a beautiful fur.
Indeed she is.
And I did not mean to be gender insensitive.
So we apologize.
Well, I apologize.
Oh.
You didn't say anything wrong. It was me.
Oh, good for me.
So,
I mean,
yeah, good for you.
Time for everything, right?
So tell us, Taebyn.
Yes.
Have you caught the tail?
That question's going to haunt me, I know, because it's so close. It's like one time, I think it was just the other day, it was right there, and it's like my mouthy was right like on it. My little fuzzy little puppy lips right on it, and then it just fluffed. I didn't have a big enough hole, so I cannot quite classify that as a cot. I can classify that as a bed, but not a cot. Huh. But I was using some pretty good techniques, though. I started doing a three-dimensional thing. Instead of chasing tail clockwise, like in a planar fashion, I kind of did a uppy-downy thing. And I think that helped me get a little more gravity involved, and I could speed up a little more. So I'm learning some good tricks from this. This is a very good thing. You can edit out that little thing I just made.
Yes, please say very good thing again.
Very good thing.
Good. Okay. Today we are going to be interviewing Lemnius Gryphs.
Oh, yes.
From SpokAnthro. He's the con chair up there. He'll be joining us a little bit later. Before we get to him, Taebyn, I understand you had some pajama issues lately.
Ah, yes. The PJ saga. Yeah, I tweeted about this. If any fur happens to follow me, you might have already seen this story unfold. And it's something off and on throughout the last month. And so I compiled it all into a journal. So let me read you the journal, the saga, the drama that has been happening to me. April 12th, 2020. It's been a challenging morning. I needed to change my PJs, but the wolfy ones are in a load to be washed, so I have to wear my current polar bear PJs until the wolfy load gets done. But I have to time it just right. Wow! #quarantine life. April 19th, 2020. I was in the same situation again, but even worse this time. Both my wolfy and my polar bear PJs were in the laundry, and so I had to wear bland PJs until they got washed. Wolfy PJs are currently being washed, so things should be okay soon. I will update later. Update on my PJ situation. Wolfy and polar bear PJs are now washed, but I think I'll keep wearing the bland ones I'm currently wearing for a few days. So probably Wednesday I'll wear the wolfy ones. Yes, that sounds like a good plan. Thoughts? ? April 22nd, 2020. The PJ drama pup date. It's not an update, it's pup date. So yes, indeed, I decided to change from my bland PJs into wolfy PJs today. Parenthetical remark. You might remember that I had thought I would change on Wednesday, and indeed, that is the case. It is a good decision. I should turn this into a story. Quarantine life, a pup story. So this is the story unfolding.
The story's unfolding.
And there's one more journal update I have. May 23rd, so this was not too long ago.
That was just a little bit ago.
That was a little bit ago. So this has been going on for quite some time. Wow, it's been quite a morning. So after a long debate with myself, I decided to put the current PJs in the wash as it was efficient with what was already in there. So I decided to go with the dark wolfy PJs. But then I couldn't find either my dark or my light wolfy PJs anywhere. I found the polar bears, but no wolfies. They weren't in the laundry, and I was starting to get quite a concern. But finally, I found both wolfies in the dryer. So crisis averted. I now have my dark wolfies What a morning! Exclamation point. And that is where the saga exists right now.
So, question, our
Yeah.
discerning listeners, since now we know we have two, since Cassidy said she listens, and so that means that we have two listeners now. So, why are you wearing pajamas?
Well, it seems like the thing to do. It's very comfy. I mean, my
Okay.
fluff is pretty comfy as it is, but my wolf and my polar bears too. But the wolfies are like just this added level of comfort to the fluff. And when you're inside and everything, and looking out at the nice day, it's just kind of a comfy thing to do. And it's turning out it's a very important thing to do, as you can tell by my saga and how apparently upsetting all of this was to me.
All right. Well, now that we have that all handled, I see that Lemnius is waiting to come into our session. So I will connect him up and we will get to speaking with Lemnius.
Woohoo!
All right. Well, joining us today is Lemnius. How do you say your last part?
Gryphs.
Gryphs. Okay.
Yeah.
Gryphs.
So here we are with Lemnius
Gryphs.
Gryphs, the con chair of SpokAnthro. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Well, it's now Spoke-canceled this year.
Canceled.
I see what you did there. That's very cute.
But that's most of the conventions in Spokane, is everything is Spoke-canceled because...
Oh, so you can't quite take credit. I give you credit. I think you did it.
Well, maybe.
At least you didn't call it SpokCovid.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No.
That's not good. No.
No, that's not good at all.
Oh.
And I like saying Gryphs. Gryphs. That's fun to say.
And people think I'm a griffin. And I'm like, no, I'm not a griffin.
You're not a griffin.
No.
You're a Lemnius.
Yes, I'm Lemnius.
So here we are. You're
we
our
are.
guest today on our pod.
Where's my
and
coffee?
We have a bunch of
don't know.
questions to ask you. So Taebyn,
So
why
you
don't you
better
jump
get your
right in?
coffee.
You know
Yeah.
what? I'm prepared for all these questions.
I am not. So let's just see how it goes then. So, question number 1. How long have you been in the fandom, Lemnius?
Well, I slowly got into the fandom in 1998 at the wee age of 12. I barely had internet access, but when I came across some artwork while browsing the school computer, it caught my interest because I was always into anthropomorphic characters. I became more active later, I think maybe 2001, 2002. I was more old enough to venture out into the internet world. Technology was much different than it is now. It was available, but not as available as it is now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so I guess that kind of answers what brought you to the fandom. Like, how long was it before you actually got into the fandom? Because you can be a furry and not be in the fandom and that whole thing.
I don't remember how I found it. I think I was looking for tailspin images for art stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because that show really got me into furries, as well as Robin Hood. Thanks, Disney. Don Carnage was my huge crush, still is. Roll the R! Captain Don Carnage! Oh, yeah.
Exactly. The kitty's out of the bag on that one. What was your first FurCon then?
Actually, my first convention was All for Fun, or AFF. It was actually the first furry convention in Spokane before SpokAnthro. It only lasted from 2007 to 2009. I attended all three, and I was on staff for the last year. But before anyone asks, I don't know what happened, what made AFF go down. I was kind of running some of the theater stuff. We didn't have many people attend that year. I think it was less than 300. I don't remember. But, this was during a time where the furry fandom, it wasn't new, but it was still kind of scarce.
So you said 2007 to 9. Yeah, that was still pretty early-ish. That brings us to then, how long have you been the chair of SpokAnthro?
I've been the chair of SpokAnthro since the very beginning.
Which is when?
2000.
That was just last year, wasn't it?
Well, no, it was last year that the convention happened, but with the production and everything, I'd say it was 2017. I think November of 2017.
That's right. You worked for quite a long time. I remember actually. Wow, has it been a few years? I remember a few years ago you were talking about starting it and wondering about how cons are these days and everything. And so we were talking about that. Yeah, that was a long time ago. What is it like being a con chair?
Exuberating at times. It can be stressful too. When this all started, I will admit my ambition clouded the reality of how a convention runs. I am glad I learned what I needed to know before the convention happened. It is a nice feeling to make something that people can enjoy. I always wanted to do filmmaking, and I think it was good practice since they both kind of share the same structure. The important thing I will address when it comes to running or starting a convention for anyone who wants to be a chairman is knowing and learning the negatives first. Because people have a tendency to dive into something because they think they know what they are doing, which I'd say even if that was the case, always be prepared otherwise. Never be competitive. I actually listened to your podcast when you guys interviewed Gabriel, and he had a very valid point that I agreed with when he basically implied that conventions should be big on love and community service.
Yeah.
With that being said, I do believe numbers are important, but not in a sense of competition, but more of helping that community or that convention thrive. The reality is conventions cost money. Running a convention is a team effort that does depend on love and community service. The chairman organizes and decides things and even steps in to fill those missing gaps. The staff is really important when it comes to making a convention work. I wanted SpokAnthro to happen because AFF was gone. And there hasn't been a convention in Inland Northwest for a while. There was one in Idaho, but it's hasn't surfaced in several years.
Okay, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Plus, you get a lot of volunteers. Volunteers make a convention work.
Oh, yeah, they most certainly do. And that's a really good step is, always volunteer. There's always benefits and perks when it comes to volunteering at a convention. You don't even have to work full hours. You could just do it for like 4 hours a day. And trust me, there's a lot of perks behind doing that.
And being a volunteer, it seems like in a way you kind of want volunteers more than paid staff because, well, they're volunteering to do this, which means they have something a little bit more love for what they're doing, and they're going to maybe put themselves work harder to make things better a little bit more. So I imagine organizing especially the months leading up to SpokAnthro, but in general, organizing was it really stressful for you, or was it fun, or did the levels of these things kind of start to switch as you got closer to the start of the con?
It's really simplistic, but at the same time, you have to be focused when it comes to working a convention in general, but no matter what position you're in, because it's a team effort. So there has to the communication is very key when it comes to making a convention work.
Oh, I bet. Definitely.
And, you have to make sure you have the right person doing the right job. It's not about, I appreciate that you're helping us, but we have to make sure that somebody knows what they're doing too.
In retrospect, how do you feel that the con went? And then now looking back at it, how do you feel like what could have been better, or what do you wish you would have known beforehand?
When you start something, it's always best to be hopeful and positive. We had a number of, I think it was 348 attendees last year. We were just aiming for good numbers to have a next year, but we just wanted to have a good start for the convention.
Right.
It started as an idea, and then it just expanded.
And it expanded greatly. Both me and Bearly, as you know, were there last year, and we both were very impressed with how well it went. We had a great time. SpokAnthro is a pretty great little con. It's only happened 1 year, of course, but so far I've been pretty impressed and looking forward to go back again next year.
It's nice to be a small convention. It's actually quite unique, and the unique thing about SpokAnthro is we're not in some big city. We are generally in a resort town. I mean, it's a decent sized city. I like to think Spokane is basically the Fort Lauderdale of the Inland Northwest, but that's just me. It's a subtle town.
I've never considered Spokane being the Fort Lauderdale.
There's a lot of old people,
but okay.
Okay. So what is the single most unique, besides being in an older person's Fort Lauderdale town, what is the single most unique thing you think is about SpokAnthro?
I wouldn't say there's anything unique. I think what I like to say is a continuance for the furry convention chapter in Inland Northwest. Considering we're under Rainforest Anthropomorphics International, we're basically an expansion. I mean, Rainforest is gone, but they still have other conventions under their belt, like our sister convention for Landia and RustyCon, which is a science fiction convention in Seattle.
Oh, okay. And filling the gap that you experienced for so long after AFF, that's pretty cool too. Just specifically, what could you say is the hardest part of chairing an event like this?
The hardest part about chairing this convention?
Besides sitting in a chair. That was a bad joke.
If you worked in retail or even even acted as a manager, it's generally no different. You have to make sure all the ducks are in the row, and sometimes there is a lot of info to take in. And so it's always important to take notes, especially if you don't have a memory of an elephant. I can remember lines from a script, but numbers, technobabble, and graphs, not so much. So I always have to take notes when people would discuss certain things. Also, trying to make time to commit when also running the local furry community and organizing events and also almost working full-time job can be quite a task. But that's why the staff is there. We work as a team, and we do have a wonderful team on SpokAnthro, so they do help lighten the load.
SpokAnthro went overall very especially for first con, very well organized, and you could tell that the staff and volunteers were working together, and there was communication, and it went well. So I can definitely see that, even though things can be hard like that. If you've got good communication and good people and good furs and everything, things can actually go pretty well. So what then was the easiest thing about the con?
Well, I would not say there is anything easy, because if it was easy, you're doing it wrong. So instead of the easiest thing, I will say the positive thing in regards to running convention is knowing your commitment and hard work to form something people would enjoy, and crafting and creating some connection with those who attend. I get pure joy when we make something that brings out the joy of others. It's difficult, but it pays off in the end when you see those happy faces.
That's wonderful. Kind of comes back to what you were saying earlier. You and Gabriel were saying that you should do these things for the love of the community and love of other furs and just that love. And so that's great that it can actually pay you back like that too. So that's great.
I'm sure when I get home, from a convention, I look like that little kitty, that fuzzy kitty picture meme that says, "I hate everything," and it's like all mad looking.
That is so you, Lem. I mean, that's all I ever see when I see you, right?
At the last con at SpokAnthro, there were times when I saw you throwing your arms up in the air and just
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest. When I was guest relations lead at Furlandia, I barely slept. I was working hard. I mean, I had fun. I had a lot of fun, but I was working 18, 19-hour days, and I barely slept. When it came to chairing SpokAnthro, I mean, there was a lot of work to do, but there wasn't much going on. I guess that's another beneficial thing about smaller conventions, too. So
that means you just had good people that you surrounded yourself with.
What is the plan for SpokAnthro 2021?
There's a lot of things on the agenda for SpokAnthro 2021. It was really hard to cancel this year. Everyone's health is important to us. On the professional spectrum, we also have to factor in the liability issues if people were to get sick at our event. But for next year, we want to make up for what we couldn't provide this year. The hotel was nice enough to let us carry over the contract and everything, and let us use their event space next year. So everything's good with that. We just want to do a whole lot more.
Will the pool be open next year?
I'm hoping so. I'm really hoping so. I haven't been to the hotel in a while. I should go by there and check things out. They have an additional room now, but it's kind of for like meetings or something. Yeah, I was actually there 4 months ago, and the hotel rooms are much different now. They're much nicer looking.
So for our one listener out there, so at SpokAnthro last year, one of the panels I ran was a story time with Taebyn, which is what I commonly do at cons. And I was they did this for like all the panels pretty much. I was in a little, hotel room, and they took the bed out of the room so that they could have a panel room. It was very packed. So we're hoping to get that changed for next year.
Your panel is very important. So we'll make sure that you get placed in a bigger room.
Well, I'm excited. So how can folks and furs attend SpokAnthro? What is the best way to get more information and register and all that good stuff?
SpokAnthro.org. Yeah, I don't think we have registration up until August or so. We're still closing the books for this year, so I wouldn't expect registration to be up for quite a while.
But if you were registered for this year, it carries over to next year.
Yes, I do want to point that out. It is crucial that you contact registration if you registered this year, but that's only paid registration, though. You have the option to either roll over your attendance or donate or get a refund. If people don't contact us by, I think it was June 15th, it gets rolled over automatically.
That's very actually useful and helpful for people not to have to go through that extra stress. So that's good too. Is there anything in 2020 in your area that folks can attend this year?
I'm not certain, since everything's basically closed down or canceled. When we're able to host meetups, Inland Northwest Fur Folk plans to have a few potlucks or barbecue meetup. We usually have a bowling meetup every other month. The last one we had about 45 people or 50 people, which was like the most we've had in a long time. So that's good. But we really want to pay attention on how the phases go in Washington, and we just want to be careful. So we don't want to go too extravagant or too big or anything of the sort.
No.
It just depends on this COVID-19 thing settles down.
It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I'm doing but I am.
Well, Lem, we're coming to the end of our time together. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listener?
In all honesty, the only thing I can say is be supportive and maybe try your hand at helping conventions. It's always fun to attend, but it's also fun to learn how it works. It's a team effort, and even though attending a convention or even a meetup, it helps them financially. I mean, I feel working with them helps keeps things going and lightens the load. Just be supportive.
I agree. This pup agrees.
He's pup approved.
He's pup approved.
Well, Lem, thanks for joining us. I know you're busy. You have other things to take care of, so we're going to let you go.
Okay.
Taebyn, anything else you want to say to our friend Lem?
I virtually hug you with pauses right now. It's happening right now.
I missed you guys. It was a joy to hang out with you last time. So
It was.
I hope we get to do that again.
We will do that again someday, somehow, some fluff.
I'll come bug you in Oregon. Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's always good to talk to him. Yeah, that's good. That was good.
Yeah,
Good information.
up there in Spokane. That's a interesting town, Spokane.
It is, and I guess it's a university town too, isn't it?
It is several universities, I believe.
Several, really.
I think isn't Gonzaga there and University of Spokane? I don't know.
And then there's probably Spokane University, right? I mean, it's a
Right,
big place.
yeah. And Spokane College,
Spokane
and there's
College of Spokane.
there's probably a community college there too.
Yeah,
There's a
Community
college
College of
everywhere.
Spokane Community.
There you go. So many colleges that we didn't know about.
So many,
So many.
and none to go to. I guess I don't know.
I know. It's terrible. So, what are you watching on TV these days?
I was watching Young Sheldon, and I finished Young Sheldon, or I guess whatever it is, second season.
Mhm.
And so I went all the way back to, and I forget if I told you this last week, but I went all the way back to started season 1, episode 1 with Big Bang Theory.
Oh,
Seen all, 11 seasons? How many does it? It has a lot of seasons.
there's a lot of seasons.
And
Yeah.
I've seen them all, but it's like just finished with watching the current Young Sheldon. Go back to episode 1 of Big Bang, and those. So I've only watched a few of the beginning ones, and they're pretty great. You might remember, and of course I can't help but as I'm watching it in the back of my mind thinking Young Sheldon and seeing any connections, even though of course they didn't have Young Sheldon in mind way back then. But I can see, I mean, they did their homework. I can see the young Sheldon growing into the older Sheldon. I mean, makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch the first couple of seasons of Big Bang Theory with knowledge of the Young Sheldon show.
Yeah, definitely.
It brings that character into a different light almost.
Yeah, and it's more of in a way, more fulfilling. Although since it's Sheldon, it's a little more annoying in a way, but a little more fulfilling. You get a bigger overall experience of what Sheldon is. So I started watching that again, and I remembered your animals, and I did watch the first episode.
Uh-huh.
That's interesting, I guess, is what I'll say. I'll probably try and watch another one. I mean, not try, I'll be able to, but I'm sure I'll watch another one, knowing what I'm getting myself into.
Right. The next one is called Pigeons, and it's hilarious.
Okay, so I'm going to have to watch Pigeons. So I've seen the rats,
Yes.
now I'll go on to the pigeons. That's great.
Pigeons. I have been watching a show on Hulu called The Great.
The Great.
And it's about Catherine the Great of Russia in the 1700s.
Oh, okay.
And it's got a little asterisk on it that says The Great asterisk, an occasionally true story.
Oh, okay.
Kind of made light of it. It's a really engaging show on Hulu. If you have a chance, take a look at it. It's about an hour each episode, but it's really interesting to see what happened and how Catherine came to be Catherine the Great.
With slight modifications. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it caused me to actually start researching out about her and spent several hours reading about the rise of the Russian powers, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, wow. So it turned out to be a truly educational endeavor.
It did. It did. So let's move on to furries in the news.
Furries in the news. I don't know what that was, but there it was.
I don't have a lot for furries in the news this week. I have all sorts of news feeds that I check. There's not because there's not a lot going on because of the crisis.
True.
Have you heard of Animal Crossing?
I have, definitely, and I want it, and it's really hard to get because you need a Nintendo. If I had a Nintendo Switch, then it would be a lot easier to get, but I don't have one, so it's really hard to get. And Nintendo Switches are like really hard to get right now because like everyone's getting them because they have nothing else to do.
Right.
Yeah, Animal Crossing is, from what I've seen, pretty great, pretty exciting. I actually might be getting a Switch soon. It's secondhand, but it's like in good condition and stuff. I'm hoping to be able to do that.
Second hand.
Second paw. First paw.
So you're going to get a second paw.
I am going to get a second paw and a second paw Nintendo Switch. Yeah, but Animal Crossing, I'm looking forward to trying that out sometime. I love how the little animals talk and things. It's really cute. Someone tweeted, and it's in my timeline or in my tweet history because I have to, and I go back and look at it every now and then. Someone tweeted this little thing about how Flitch has had enough. So make sure to check that out. I'm sure you'll never find it because how are you going to find it unless you look through every single one of my tweets? But if you find it, I'll give you some fluff or something, or a Taebyn coin at a con sometime or something.
So Taebyn, tell me any good math stories.
Yes, that's right. We haven't actually had a math history in a week or two. So here's one, kind of an interesting piece of math history. You might remember from another pupcast, I talked about how in the past, math history, it's not, sometimes it's cutthroat. It's not as dull as you might think. So for example, on the discovery of the irrational number. So let me just tell you what those are. A rational number is just, it's a fraction. It's just a number that can be written as something divided by something. It's a ratio. An irrational number is a number that cannot be written as a fraction. For example, the square root of 2.
It's not a number that loses its temper.
Well, it's definitely that. Get real. If you're a math person, you know that joke.
Get on with it.
In the beginning, mathematical rigor, like to be precise about math and really digging into it, that actually came with the ancient Greeks. But the actual mathematical thought process and concepts and just the general idea and thinking about things actually started more closer to religious beliefs. And that makes sense, because like thinking and philosophy and all that kind of stuff. And so because of this, numbers in the ancient times were attributed to divine stuff and divine intervention and just beautiful divinity and things like that. So back in the day, the quote unquote school of Pythagoras, so that's like a Pythagorean theorem and stuff like that. The school of Pythagoras, this was actually a team and a cult of early mathematicians that were working on mathematical knowledge and things. And like all good cults, their foundations were based in fundamental religious views and that sort of thinking. And so because of that, the numbers which drive the world and are everywhere in the world, they were divine and wonderful and this beautiful kind of sacred thing. And then they were really impressed with ratios like fractions and how they're very much attributed to like everything, like architecture. What am I trying to say? Architecture. With buildings and stuff.
Agriculture would probably be the culture of architecture.
Oh, I think you're right. Ooh. Anyway, and it's in gardening and, it's in the world and ratios and how things compare like that. So, 1/2 and 3/4 and all that good stuff. So, of course, since it's in nature everywhere, ratios, fractions are like the epitome of divine. And, this is sacred stuff. So one of these Pythagoreans in this cult named Hippasus was working with the Pythagorean theorem. So I don't know if you know about that. It's just about, it's a formula about the lengths of the sides of a triangle. Most everyone learns it in high school or something. So it's not a big, deep thing. A triangle, which is all over in nature, right? They're really important and everything. There is a triangle that has side lengths 1, 1, and the square root of 2. Okay, great. So there's a square root of 2. Now, Hippasus actually discovered the irrational numbers, and he discovered that the square root of 2 was not a rational number, which means it could not be written as a fraction. Well, the Pythagoreans Europeans, since the fractions are like all divine, they were not happy to hear about this. So they vowed not to tell anyone about the non-rational ability of the square root of 2. And in fact, the story goes that Hippasus was drowned out at sea.
Wow.
And that's the story.
So they were the first fact deniers.
They were indeed the first fact denier.
Wow. That's amazing.
And it is, and it just goes along with like I said, back in the day, they were cutthroat back then. I mean, come on.
Wow, it's math. You can't tell me what math is.
You can't tell me what 1/2 is. It all exists, or something like that. I don't know.
Wow.
Craziness.
That's craziness. All right, so let's get to the this or that.
This or that.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes or waffles? I think I have to go with pancakes. I know a lot of people like the waffles and stuff, and it's fun to put the little syrupies or jelly or something in the little squares, and that's fun, but I don't know. I find in general, pancakes turn out more fluffy for me, so I'd have to go pancakes.
So it's a fluff-based
It's
decision.
a fluff-based. Definitely.
UPS or FedEx?
I don't know. For some reason, I'm feeling UPS. Maybe it's because it makes me ups like a pups.
You know, if they combined, they'd be fed up.
That would really make me fed up, definitely. You can't be having that.
Let's try Coke or Pepsi.
Pepsi. And actually, back in the day, when I was a younger pup, so i.e. only a few years ago, it used to be Coke, actually. But these days, I'm liking the Pepsi.
If I have to drink a cola, I prefer Royal Crown.
Well, yeah, okay. So there you go. What about Royal Crown with Coke or Pepsi? Which would you prefer?
Well, no, that's Crown Royal.
Oh.
Crown Royal
okay, I see.
is different than Royal Crown.
Okay.
Royal Crown is a soda pop.
Okay.
Crown Royal is a whiskey.
Oh, well, that shows you what this pup knows. Not much.
I know. And from our first pupcast, you can remember that you chose vodka over whiskey, so you wouldn't know.
I did. So I just actually wouldn't know. Okay, so it makes sense. Makes sense.
And finally, silver or gold?
I think I'd have to go gold. I'm not sure why. Silver is a little bit prettier, but I know why it is. It's because like in D&D and Mud and other, things like that, gold is like just the thing to get. It's harder to get the platinum, though. It's usually you have to get a whole bunch of gold to get the platinum. So I guess that's why I'm going with gold. I'm just rambling now. I have no idea what's going on. Please ask me, Taebyn, what are you talking about?
Taebyn, what are you talking about?
I have no idea. And thanks for asking.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I think we should wrap this up. And so our listeners, I guess our two listeners, they can get back to doing whatever they were doing and not waste any more time.
Thank you for wasting your time with us, listener times 2.
That's right. Thank you for wasting your time with us, because time with us is time well spent.
Well spent.
Remember, you can subscribe to any of the pods on any of your favorite podcast channels, such as Stitcher, Deezer, Google Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, you name it, we're on it. You can subscribe and like and all that other kind of stuff. And remember, if you'd like to help support the cast, go to Bearly Furcasting, buy me a coffee, and you can buy us a coffee. And if you buy us a coffee, we'll drink it on the air.
Woo! I'll put it in my puppy dish and I can lap it up.
Lap it up. All right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to press the stop button.
Okay, good.
Bearly Furcasting is an Injured Nerves studio production. All opinions expressed here are those of Taebyn and Bearly, and neither received any commercial compensation for their opinions. The Furcast is recorded and edited by me, Bearly Normal, aka Mike Began. Opening, interstitial, and closing music by Shane Ivers through silvermansound.com. Taebyn can be reached on social media at TaebynPup on YouTube and Twitter.